Hello, responsible day traders and everybody in between. We are going to be starting something new. I am going to give a weekend update. Let you know how my trading went for the week. So just as we're not looking at every day, we're going to be seeing how the week comes out. Maybe at the end of the month, we'll do a monthly report as well. So let's go check it out. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what the market did first. As we can see, we started off the week right at the highs that we had reached the previous week, making us curious whether we were going to start off pushing to the downside or not. In the spirit of what's been going on for the last few weeks, this market has decided to continue moving to the upside. Have we made leaps and bounds to the upside? No, not quite, but we're still moving up. So our last high was right about here. And then what happens? We just really creep past it by the end of Monday, pulled back in a little bit, and just kept moving to the upside, just creating new highs little by little as the week went along. Eventually, we reached a high point that gave us a really strong reaction off that area. You can see our last high right about here, which is where we've reached again on Friday, really gave us a good bounce off of that area. It was enough to almost convince you that we were going to start looking for moves to the downside. As we were struggling to really pull away from these EMAs and looking at the signals that were happening from our larger MACDs, it was telling us to forget about the continuation to the downside here. Plus, something that I pay attention to and that's really important to me is where that last low took place. So our last major low was here, and we have not been able to exceed it. We pulled down and gave it a run for its money, but never made it back down there. Now we pulled up, almost equaled that high again, gave a strong look to the push down, but still couldn't exceed the previous low that we had seen a few days before. We can look here. This is an entire week's worth of data right in here. So that entire week's worth of data isn't a whole lot. This actually doesn't look like much of a move at all. So while we pulled up and reached that high pivot, reached that last high and exceeded it by just a few ticks, right before the close on Friday, it was giving us another push back to the downside. Now, with some divergence going on here between the pivots and a good push back to the downside in the bar, maybe we'll see this one come back towards the EMAs. Maybe we'll see it push a little bit further, but this trend is still trying to push to the upside. So let's go look over the trades that happened for the week. Something you may notice about me and my trading is that I don't spend all day in the market. I look for a few opportunities and then I shut it down. Monday, I only had 2 trades. Both of them were winners for me, and I shut it down pretty quickly after that. You can see I maybe spent about an hour with the market at that time. Does it have a lot more opportunities? Absolutely it does. It pushed down further here, it pushed up further here. It gave quite a few opportunities as it was pushing between these areas. You had to be quick on the draw with a lot of them, and you had to be prepared not to take them from our traditional areas, meaning the EMAs, looking for these to happen above and below the areas, or looking for quick small pullbacks into the areas to just take it to that next target. I didn't trade Tuesday or Wednesday, but I did trade when we got to Thursday. You can see there were plenty of opportunities, lots of pullbacks into these areas to continue with these moves to the upside. It did give us divergences to tell us these pushes to the downside should happen. These look like overruns of the area. When we're looking at bigger tick charts, we're going to see areas that these line up with. We'll see divergences happening at EMAs on my 1597 and the larger tick charts. As we move along, y'all, you will see there were great opportunities. It doesn't mean I was sitting there waiting for them. I can only trade the opportunities when I'm sitting in front of the market, which is not an all-day thing for me. Now, on the 20th, there were some moves to the upside, most definitely as it was pulling back, pushing up. I could see reasons for this area to hold. I do look at divergences quite a bit between my MACDs and my price, and I look at distance to run for these trades, and this gave me the opportunity. I did get in a little bit early, lost on my first trade, took 2 more entries down to the area considered to give us a bounce. Now, I did expect it to pull down a little bit further because this does line up with another EMA that I have on my 4181, but I wasn't willing to stick around and wait for it to happen. I didn't trade any more that day because there's my hour trade. Maybe someday down the line, if I can magically bring more time into my life, will I trade longer than that? But for now, this is where we're at. The next day I traded was on Friday, and I didn't trade that until the very end of the day. Here we go. End of the day, and I was really having to watch the clock with this one. I took 4 trades, all long trades. So I took an entry here, took one of my exits, got back in, took my second exit. These 2 exits were playing off my second entry. My second target actually came out to a break even, which, hey, is fine for me. So I tried to get back in, and when I did, I got stopped out pretty quickly, knowing that it still had good opportunity. Got back in, watching as the MACDs were leading lower, showing me some divergence on my smaller tick chart. Now, when we have these tighter areas that are working like this, we're going to have to move things into a smaller tick chart if we really want to still be a part of it. But at that same breath, we're going to have to use that smaller tick chart to take our exit as well. We don't want to use the smaller tick chart as our trading chart and a bigger tick chart as the targets, because we're going to end up getting run over and expecting those smaller tick charts to push further. So what are we expecting for the beginning of next week? Well, from the way that things closed, it looks like it's still trying to push us back to the downside. We're going to have to watch this, see if we finally hit a high that's going to give us a deep enough pullback to give us some play between the areas. Now, if we look at this daily chart, what we'll see here is we're still pushing up from this huge drop that we experienced back in February and March. We've been pushing up through most of April, May, June, July, August. I don't think anybody expected it to make new highs the way that it's been doing, but it is still pushing in that direction. Now, as I like to pull this back just a little bit further, if we're looking between the price and the MACDs, we've pulled down to that bottom Bollinger Band, we've touched it, and we have reversal bars saying more up. So in my general experience, what I'll see with this is a bigger push to the upside, and then possibly run out of steam then. So we're going to see this possibly start to roll up just a little bit more, push a little bit higher, maybe not a whole lot higher, but it's definitely got some reversal bar action saying we're looking for more up. The closes are happening at the upside. We've reached this bottom Bollinger Band, which is a place for the push up, but we are really far away from those EMAs, and we know price likes to snap back to familiar areas. Let's all keep our heads clear about us for this next week. If you have questions, definitely let me know. Remember, we need to pay attention. If things are getting really tight and hard to manage, we want to move to those smaller tick charts. When we've got room to run, those bigger tick charts are wide open spaces. So guys, hope everybody has a wonderful week this next week. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And as always, I look forward to catching you on the profitable side. I love y'all being here with me, so please like and subscribe so we can spend a little more time together.